Welcome to another episode of the Glacier Guys podcast. I'm here with my co-host.
Hey everyone, it's Omar Shalabi.
And we have a special guest today. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, my name is Bill Hogan. I'm an assistant professor here at Moraine of composition and literature.
All right, yeah, and today we're going to be talking some soccer, some MLB lockout, some football, and let's just get straight into it. Let's start with soccer. I know that's more of your guys' thing, but I know you're a Chelsea fan, and
right.
There's some topics you want to talk about, and there's some Champions League going on, so I'll just let you guys kick it off.
So yeah, we were talking about how Professor Hogan has become a Chelsea fan, and now currently we're talking about how there have been the sanctions on the current owner, Mr. Roman Abramovich, and what are your takes on that, Professor?
Well, yeah, and you were telling me your connection to Chelsea too, which is pretty funny, right?
Yes, sir.
So Chelsea are owned by a Russian billionaire named Roman Abramovich. He bought the team like 20 years ago, and was a revolutionary figure in world soccer. And you got to say, as a team owner, I'm no fan of owners of pro sports teams. Hopefully we'll get into this a bit.
Yes, of
There's
course.
not one owner that I respect or like. Sorry. And I've got my reasons. So I was never like, oh, Abramovich is, it's my criteria is, do they, run a team that's successful? Are they willing to invest? Do they have the funds to do it? And so he did, and he broke the mold. When he came into Chelsea, they were one of the better teams, and they had won some things, but they were never an elite team in Europe or in England. But within a few years of buying Chelsea, they were scooping up the top players in Europe and won the Premier League, and then won it again and won a Champions League. And so I was a fan, like hipster style. I was a fan of the team a year before he bought it. I came to it late.
Perfect timing.
Exactly. I came to it late. It was in 2002 I started, and I think he bought it in like 2003. And so anyway, the current events, he's very closely linked to Vladimir Putin.
Okay.
And the sanctions that governments around the world have been imposing on both the Russian government, but also people, because with the history of the fall of the Soviet Union and then the sort of siphoning off of resources for private gain, Abramovich benefited from that.
Right.
So he's based in London. He has a mansion in London that I believe is worth like 200 million. Crazy. He's got yachts. He's got the team. Yeah. And he was a great owner because he would just spend with no regard for is it making money. Literally, a couple years ago, Chelsea they had a transfer ban because they had spent too much money.
Oh wow!
I didn't even know that was possible.
Right, because there's not like salary caps like that.
Yeah,
but they have a few financial fair play, it's called. And so now that Abramovich is getting sanctioned, Chelsea, the team, is one of his major assets. And today, the news came down that the UK government is basically like severing him from the team.
Really?
They haven't officially taken the team from him. And he clearly knew that something like this was coming because last week he offered the team up for sale.
Oh, wow.
I did see that, actually. I didn't know what the reasoning would be. I didn't know that his origin was Russia, so that makes a lot more sense.
His origin is Russia, so he offered the team up for sale and said, like, whatever debts the team has, I'm going to write them off. And it was like several $1 billion. He's like, it's up for sale. Don't worry about the debts. You get the stadium, the team,
you get everything.
Trying to just cut ties.
Yeah.
A news report that freaked me out was that the Ricketts family that owns the Chicago Cubs were looking to buy Chelsea. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you don't have enough money.
Yeah, I was about to say they're in debt because they bought like all of Wrigleyville.
No, they are not in debt at all.
I know, but
they are just fine.
Oh yeah,
of course.
This
is what I don't want from an owner is like the pretending like, oh, we're taking biblical losses, like they say.
No, yeah.
And it's like
business first.
Yeah, and they exactly. And I don't want anyone in the current, like, horrible word here, but the current paradigm, like just the way that it's structured.
Yeah.
The structure is got no concern for like morality. Let's put it
Right.
that way.
No, yeah.
And the structure has no concern for who do these teams really belong to. The structure is just who's got the most money.
Right.
And you're not dealing with like good people here.
No.
Once you
No,
get to
no.
that level, you're dealing with like, you know, it's pretty ugly how
Some of the most cutthroat people you probably ever meet.
Right. And so let's just forget the whole like, oh, there's a good owner and a bad owner. They're all bad. Now, don't get to that level.
No,
Like,
yeah.
So like when I heard that, I'm like, and I'm a Cubs fan. That was before we were talking.
Yeah.
I came to the Chelsea because I'm like, I grew up a Cubs fan. I wanted that. Now I have to say, the Ricketts did bring a championship to the Cubs.
They
We
did.
can't say that.
They did.
So getting Theo Epstein, incredible.
Yeah.
Building that team, incredible. The sports moment of my life was the Cubs winning the World Series. in
Oh, I
2016.
bet. Yeah.
That's it. Chelsea with Abramovich, right? They won. They're all great. So why would I not want the Ricketts to buy the team? It's that look at what the Ricketts have done since the World Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've spent some money, right?
Yeah. But
But
they've
there's also been a decline.
they've kind of
Yeah.
cried broke in
Cried
in what-
broke.
Yeah.
They've been all too happy to do what the
The TV
so-called
network.
small market teams in MLB do, where they say like, oh well, we need to like kind of gut it and strip it down so we can build it back up, and it's like
Yeah.
you don't need to do that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that they would in any way come close to Chelsea, where in global soccer right now, you want to win, you have to have almost unlimited funds and spend.
As much
Have
as you
no
get.
limits. Have no limits. You
Right.
can't just
Yes.
throw money, because Manchester United has spent a lot of money and they haven't been successful.
Mhm.
So you need to empower, like have good people in positions of power.
Yeah.
And they did it with Theo, but with the Cubs. But yeah, anyway, I don't want them anywhere near Chelsea.
Yeah. Especially considering the fact that like it's a complete different market, complete different mindset. It's a completely different game, and it's like, and you
Well,
can't.
Okay, to play devil's advocate there have been so many American sports owners that have purchased Premier League teams recently, and in Italy as well, Serie A.
Mhm.
So like, for example, Liverpool are owned by the Fenway Sports Group that own
Yeah.
the Red Sox, right? Manchester United are the Glacier family, and all right, so you're familiar with this, but
Yeah.
so they can do it, and Liverpool have been incredibly successful
They have,
under that group.
Yeah, they've been in like 2 or 3 finals in the last couple of years.
Yeah, won the Premier League for the first time since the 80s.
Yeah.
Won the Champions League.
Mhm.
Are looking amazing right now. But
Yeah.
what's going on with Chelsea as well? Part of this new news. Okay, so the sanction come down. Abramovich. Today we learned that as part of like sort of stripping the team from him, the employees of the team, from the players, but
Uh-huh.
through the support staff, through like people like that do the catering for the team, right? Like
Oh yeah.
professional sports,
Yeah.
you expect like your meals are provided. And it's like nutritional, high quality, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Think about how you, in the Champions League,
Mm-hmm.
Chelsea traveling all over Europe to play.
Mhm.
Well, I don't have the exact details, but it's like they have this severe restriction of like they can only spend something like 30,000
Really?
euros on travel for a particular game. Some limit that means like they're not going to be able to charter the private plane
Yeah.
to stay in like the
The
hotel that they
top tier
would
hotels
right
and all that. Yeah.
have everything catered and taken care of. And for like elite athletes playing a super busy schedule,
They need that. They need all of it.
right? Like, so people, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they're saying like, are Chelsea players gonna like take a bus?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
gonna
You know?
fly commercial.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
or fly commercial, which would be pretty cool. Oh
It
my
would be kinda
God.
funny.
You know, you
Like-
sit down and
Sit
like,
next to Lukaku. It's
yeah,
like, wait a minute,
exactly. And
what?
N'Golo Kante is like reading a newspaper next to you, like, oh my God. So maybe some lucky people will benefit from that. Like,
Yeah. That'd be really
You know.
interesting.
The pictures on social media would definitely be interesting.
Oh
but
man.
So, do you have anything else as far as soccer goes that you want to talk about?
I got a lot
Okay.
more to say. Now, here's what I really want to talk about.
Okay.
Here we go.
As the UK government has imposed these sanctions,
Okay.
which I really was doubtful they would go this far.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought Abramovich, the money, London needs that sort of foreign money there, and it's dirty. So
You
Yeah.
would think so? Yeah.
what do they do now? So do they do like an auction to like who's
Who
the
buys it,
highest
yeah.
bidder that could buy the team from a brand?
That's dangerous waters, though.
Because they're saying like no more ticket sales this season because they don't want a single dollar to make its way to Abramovich.
Yeah.
Right. And Chelsea's his. So they want to they haven't fully said we're taking it, it's gone. But if they do, all right, let's say they do a bid sort of thing. Well, who can buy a franchise that's say $3 billion or more, something like that?
Right.
Again, not people that are the most reputable.
Yeah, I'm
Not-
sure there's a lot of people that can buy that. Yeah.
Right, or they could, but they might be Newcastle was just bought by
Yeah.
a Saudi investment thing, and people are like, well, look at the Saudi government sanctioning the killing of the journalist, right, Jamal
Yeah.
Khashoggi, and there's a lot of this I mean, if you don't want to have this sort of unsavory character or something where there's like a moral or political dilemma involved, well, then what could you do? And I've already heard something that made me very happy, which is considering giving the control of the team, the ownership, to the fans.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That would be really cool, but I'd never see that happening, I don't think.
Now so you told me you're not that into soccer, right? But
No.
But you who is the team that you like?
Barcelona.
Do you know who owns Barcelona?
I do not. It's the fans, isn't it?
It is.
Actually, really.
Yeah.
Wait, is it?
Yes, it is.
So
Is there like a collective group? Or is it,
Absolutely.
Really?
So-
And you, all right, and you tell me in Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Omar, you grew up in Jordan, and what were the two teams that people were into?
It was either Barcelona or Real Madrid.
right.
Yeah.
And guess who owns Real Madrid?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I did not know that.
Chelsea. You stayed up all night to watch Chelsea win the Champions League over Bayern Munich.
Right.
Guess who owns Bayern Munich?
Yeah, that makes
Wow.
That has it been like that for a while?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, you just kind of blew my mind.
I
with
know
that.
it.
Soccer is such a different sport.
Oh,
compared
really?
to
Who owns the
American
Green Bay
sports.
Packers?
I mean, I knew that. but-
Okay.
But I'm
Well,
just
why
saying-
is it some unimaginable thing?
But
Yeah.
these are huge organizations as far as soccer organizations compared to these. I mean, soccer's a worldwide sport. That's why it just feels so different.
Well,
You
so
know what I mean?
here's my issue for several years now has been fan ownership of pro sports teams.
Uh-huh.
And there's a number of different models.
Mm-hmm.
I might be oversimplifying it a little bit with Barcelona, Real Madrid, but not in the substantive sense that the fans have a control over the team that we are not used to in American sports at all, and are not typical of private sports ownership, where in the case of Barcelona and Real Madrid, it's rooted in the history, like how these clubs grew out of being literally like a community sort of thing.
Right.
And then it's an association of fans.
Uh-huh.
And as it grows, they get to vote on things like who should the team hire as the president of the team. Right? They're not making the little minute decisions.
Yeah,
right? You
right.
can't vote on do we sign this player or not.
Yeah.
But what they get to do is have a referendum and an actual vote on who should the president of the team be. So
Like some sort of council.
right? So imagine, bring it back to American sports. When Tom Ricketts bought the Cubs,
Yeah.
he took a couple years, but he made a critical decision that was everything
With
by
Theo.
Epstein, right?
Uh-huh.
And that was awesome.
Right.
And as a Cubs fan, I'm so deeply invested into this team, but I'm like, oh, great. I'm so happy you made the decision, right? Let's look at our other sports teams. I'm a Bulls fan.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
How many years did we have to live with Gar packs?
Yeah.
Too many.
Right? And what could we do about it?
Nothing.
Absolutely
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
All right, think about the Bears,
Yeah.
right?
McCaskey.
The McCaskey, right?
Ted Phillips.
They're all like these.
Yeah.
I don't want to know about their personality. Like the reporting on the Bears and stuff is well, what you have to know about George is his difference from Michael, and he was interested in this. And I don't care about these guys' resumes enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why should I? I want to watch the team,
Yeah.
Yes.
and I want to have people in charge to make decisions.
Football.
Yeah,
people
I
in
don't want
charge.
there to be Ted Phillips, and I don't want, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And as a fan, I want to be able to say, you know what? I get to vote on it. I
Yeah.
don't get to just, I don't have to sit here
Yeah.
powerless and look at it's like palace intrigue,
Yeah.
Like who's the queen's favorite, whatever. I don't care.
So these
Yeah.
these teams are for the people and by the people.
For the
sort of.
people and by the people.
That is fantastic. And it's like when you mention Barcelona, Real Madrid, and it's like you think about these fans, right? And they're so loyal to these teams, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like, I think about, like, how can a person here in America be so loyal to a team that's controlled by people that we don't admire, we don't respect, but then you look at these guys, and like Bayern Munich, for example, I had no idea.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And that explains so much.
And in Germany, so this is the one, and there's a counter argument to Bree brought up, but in Germany it's encoded in law. It's called the 50+1 rule.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened when as the commercialization of European soccer, as it really started to grow, and it wasn't until like the 1990s and all that where it just exploded, where it's like, wow, these teams are becoming like these huge entertainment products. And it kind of, the bond that, like you're saying, the fans have and the connection to the team started to slip away. And a lot of English fans of the top teams have bemoaned that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to a Manchester United fan, it's been around a while. They're like, oh my God. In Germany, they passed a law called 50+1, which is by law to be a professional German soccer team. The fan club of each team must own 50% +1 at minimum of the control of the team.
Interesting.
And so every team in the German Bundesliga
is owned by
the fans.
Right.
And okay, fine. There's a couple exceptions that are a little bit like Wolfsburg was historically owned by Volkswagen, the company.
Yeah.
And so it's like, all right, they got there's like 2 or 3 that got grandfathered in.
But most of them,
including
the best ones.
Yeah, Dortmund and
Munich. Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt or
sorry.
anything, but there's breaking news with baseball. They just agreed to the proposal right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Really?
That's some big stuff. Yeah. Spring training is officially happening in a few weeks, I believe. So it's pretty interesting
Awesome.
stuff.
Love
I don't
it.
mean
Can't
to.
wait to.
I don't mean to. I don't mean to interrupt.
If the fans own the teams, there wouldn't have been a lockout to begin with.
Yeah. See, baseball is the most outdated sport when it comes to that kind of stuff, especially, I think.
In what way, though?
They're just very outdated in general, I think, especially with their marketing and just everything in general. And then they're not very quick to adapt as far as their rule changes and everything like that. They just, like the CBA. In what sport do lockouts happen really ever? I mean, I know the NBA
Yeah, we've had lockouts in the NFL and the NHL.
I know they had the
in recent
replacement
history.
refs and stuff like that too recently with the NFL, like a while ago. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It just baseball just seems.
Yeah, so for me, like a lockout is the owners.
Yes. It's the owners
Preventing.
versus the players' associations.
So
yes.
if you're posing to me, are the MLB owners worse than the other team? I would say no, they're not.
You don't think so?
No, they're just as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, no, yeah. I'm not saying any of the other ones are good either.
They're bad. And
just.
it's a labor negotiation. So it's a negotiation, and it comes down to leverage and power.
Yes.
Right?
It's billionaires versus millionaires.
And this is the way you phrase. This is. I grew up with people always saying that. Like, now the criticism from my perspective, a pro-labor perspective of that, is this. When we say it's millionaires versus billionaires, what we're saying is like both of these groups are like separate from
The people at the bottom.
regular people, right? To be a millionaire historic. I mean, maybe it changes. But,
Yeah.
but that's usually the framing there is meant to, it's a pro-owner framing, usually, meant to erode a little bit of the support that players might have if you define them as millionaires as opposed to defining them as workers or as labor.
I was kind of saying it in a more relative to what we're talking about, if you know what I mean. Like, I was making it seem like the millionaires were the little guys in this case.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
But do you think a normal reader would be like, oh yeah, millionaire, little guy? You know?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know. I just didn't.
Okay.
I didn't want to make
But
it.
this is like what the academic term you come across, you might come across, is called discourse, which refers to kind of like the ongoing conversation about a topic in a society, and that's just one way to think of it.
Yeah.
And like, so the legacy of a very tilted against players towards ownership discourse on pro sports labor issues frames it in millionaires versus billionaires, which means like we shouldn't identify with either group as fans. We should look at them both as like spoiled brats.
Right.
Where I see it is much more of it's labor versus capital.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I
Right.
agree.
And the ownership, they have the capital, they have the power,
The
right?
leverage and
they have the
everything,
leverage. And the players, right, their labor, yeah, they make a lot of money, but the thing is they generate that money.
No, yeah,
Right?
they
are-
deserve
The-
that
the-
money.
You mentioned
Yeah.
earlier they're the product. Right?
They're the product, and as the labor, people won't come to the stadium and they won't have their lucrative TV deals and all that if it weren't for the
Yeah.
product on the field, the players themselves.
Yeah.
And revenue has, as a matter of fact, increased in baseball. Though
No, yeah, they're crying broke. But
Yeah.
even the smallest of markets, like the Oakland A's,
Yeah.
the Oakland A's have money.
of course
They have money, but they're going out and spending like they're skimming off the bottom. You know,
Right.
they're getting the scraps every year,
Yep.
and it's not fair to the fans.
And this is a big point of contention from the players is exactly that, is that you have teams like the Pirates and the A's, right, that have payrolls that are like 25, 30 million dollars,
Yes.
and they're tanking.
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
And there's differences. This is why, like, for me, I get that baseball as a sport feels old timey and stuff. I
Yes.
get that. But if we look at it from like ownership structure, and for me, the difference is like in the NFL and in NBA, you have tanking, you have intentional
Yes.
losing, right?
Yes.
Because there's benefits to it.
Yes.
In MLB, you have the example of teams that pretend to be poor when they're not.
Right.
There's not a huge advantage to it like there is in the other sports.
No.
You know, there's still like draft priority. But
I
it's
think
not.
I think it really comes from they develop players, then they get good, and then as soon
Yeah.
as they're about to become a free agent and hit arbitration, then they ship them off for
Yeah.
more prospects that they hope turns into another player like that.
Yeah. And they manipulate service time, so
Yes.
players like, Chris Bryant doesn't
Yes.
come up, until 2 days after right.
Exactly. Like that shouldn't be a thing, you know.
And that all is coming from ownership. It's ownership
Yes.
finding loopholes in the rules and all, and they can do it. And so the players during this negotiation, which I'm glad to see it's over, but I'm only going to be glad in as much as the players got
What
a
they're
better
owed, what
deal.
they're owed.
Yeah,
Right.
and I doubt that they did.
Yeah.
I doubt that they got fully what they're owed.
I think they definitely did a good job of really holding out. I know the fans have a very nearsighted point of view. A lot of fans have a nearsighted point of view because selfishly they want to see baseball, and I agree. But at
Yeah.
the same
Oh, I can't
time,
wait.
you want to see them hold out for the best possible deal. And I think they got max of what they could have gotten with the leverage that they had, because it's almost like they're starting out with the short end of the stick, and they just have to kind of fight for what they can get, you know.
Oh, you're right. I mean that's
This conversation about owners is funny. I was watching a movie the other day about the Black Sox, right, called 8 Men Out. Great movie.
yeah, absolutely.
And there was a scene in there. Well, the owner of the White Sox at the time was Comiskey.
Yeah.
Right. And the players hated him because he treated them like nothing. This is the best team in baseball, right? And he treated them like nothing. And the opening scene of the movie, they win like the pennant or something, right? And they're going crazy. And then they go back into the clubhouse and there's all this wine. And they're like, really? Right? And one of Comiskey's like goons was like, congrats, boys. It's a present from Mr. Comiskey himself, right? One of the players opens it. It's flat. Right. And then, they're all like, of course.
Okay. Oh, it's like
great.
champagne.
Right,
and the
but it was
champagne is
flat, right?
Oh my god.
And then the right scene after, Comiskey's celebrating with all the other owners,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then after that, the team is taking
That's
a team
good.
photo, and one of the guys goes, smile, boys, pretend it's Kami's wake. Right? And then they're all smiling and they take the picture, you know? And it's
yeah.
like,
Well, yeah, John Sayles, the director of that movie, he's got a good his politics. He's definitely coming from a pro player
Right,
perspective, I could say
right.
that.
Yeah.
But you think about ownership and all this, and it's just if we had fan ownership like
Yeah.
50+1 or something, we're not
God.
going to be thinking about lockouts like that.
that
No,
would be,
no.
yeah.
We would think baseball, the thing is baseball might be the sport that's ripe for it in the US because it is kind of outdated and it is like a stodgy, like I know there've been some rules changes in this
Yeah.
agreement. But if the fans and the players were like the biggest sort of
control
Yeah.
or overseers, sort
had
of.
control. The sort of dynamic approach to like revitalizing that would be possible. Because
Right.
so in the German Bundesliga, the soccer league, they have objectively more fan. They they have the highest attendance in
Yeah.
all of Europe, and it's
Yeah.
not the best league. You know, it's like it's a top 5.
It's top 5.
They have
but
number 1, really?
They have the
highest
number
fan
1 attendance.
Wow.
By far. And as fans being on like the board of directors, they get to make big picture decisions. Like, all right, you get to decide who's going to be the team president that, hires makes all the big decisions from top down.
Right.
But they also get to things like how much are tickets going to cost?
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost to get some food and drink at the game? You know,
These are just
Promotions
fans.
and
These are
things
just
like that.
fans,
that's it.
you
So they
know?
make it so you can bring your family and you can go and not be broke by the end of it. I mean,
afterwards, yeah.
it's wild how the last time I went to a Cubs game,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
A friend gave me tickets. So
Okay.
he's like, all right, hey, I got 2 tickets.
Saved you a lot of money. That's
I didn't
for
have to
sure.
buy a ticket, but I still spent like $150.
Yeah.
Like I felt horrible at the end of the day.
You know what's crazy? Last year during the pandemic, my family and I took a trip out west. We went to Phoenix during spring training season, right? And, we went to a Dodgers game. We went to go see the White Sox. We went to go see the Reds. Now, some of these teams share stadiums in Phoenix, right? But guess which team has its own complex, its own field? The Cubs, right?
Mhm.
They're also the only team that charges for parking and has all these extra fees and all this stuff.
They're known for this kind of thing,
And-
which
yeah.
isn't the worst thing, I guess, but for a money-making standpoint,
Oh
obviously.
yeah, exactly. Right? Like that's why like the Ricketts can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
They can't say we're so in debt and
Yeah,
we're so
but
like
they do
it's like
this,
you're
yeah.
monetizing everything.
And no matter how good or bad the Cubs are, the people
It's
will
gonna be that
always
way.
show
It's
up.
always
will.
going to be
Yeah,
that
no.
way.
And I'm like that.
People will
to be
show up no matter
Sports
what.
fandom is like not a rational choice. You
No,
know, like
no,
why am
no,
I
no,
Cubs fan?
no.
Because my dad was. You
Yeah,
know, Why-
yeah.
like it's not.
Yeah.
And therefore, a lot of the decisions people make are not the rational choice
No, yeah.
type rhetoric. It's like, no, I'm gonna be a Cubs fan no matter what.
Yeah,
Right.
'cause if you
And
keep going.
no. It's just I'm a Cubs fan, and it has nothing to do with the Ricketts.
Yeah.
I'm a Chelsea fan. I came to it later, but I'm not a Chelsea fan, and I just don't feel like guilty that Abramovich owned the team because
No.
I had no control over that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm a Chelsea fan, not an Abramovich fan.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wish that I was a fan owner.
Yeah.
And had a buy-in. And if you want to look at the Green Bay Packers, look at how rabid their fandom is. Look
Yeah.
at how well run and successful the team's been.
They're owned by fans too.
And if
How
you
much-
think
yeah.
that's not related
Really?
to the ownership structure, I disagree. You know,
No,
I-
yeah.
Wait, they're owned by fans too.
No,
Yes.
yeah.
So they're the ones who came up with that $200 million a year, $200 million
sure.
4-year contracts for.
I mean,
No, they have a general manager,
Yeah.
they have team presidents.
they have
Right,
goody
right, right.
cunts,
But
yeah.
you do get to vote on it as a fan or a member
Yeah.
of the fan club.
Their fan base. Did you hear about that thing where you could be an owner of the Packers or whatever, and they were paying like you basically pay like $100 to get like a
Right.
like a like
well,
a
because this
certificate.
is America, and
Yeah, I
so
know.
the idea that like fans will actually have a say.
I know.
It's not the case in Germany. In Germany, you really do, and with Barcelona and Real Madrid, the fans
That's unbelievable.
very like. Imagine the team. Imagine just how great would this be if George McCaskey had to run an election
Yeah.
and the fans got to vote on
Yeah.
whether he said, "You're out, buddy." And and so we could have like legit candidates from other teams coming, and like that would just be incredible. And there's a number of things in terms of like organizational structure. Like instead of having to please the weird whims of the McCaskey families, whatever,
Right.
they'd have to speak to the fans and like do things that the fans respect or want.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you're good, and you don't need to play the internal palace politics.
Yeah.
Like so many sports, that's how it's done. How about the who is the Flores? The
Brian Flores.
Brian
Flores,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Think about Flores's primary complaint was that the owner of the Dolphins
Was mistreating him.
Wh-
Well,
no,
that
no,
and
what
he
was
was
it?
trying to pay him to lose.
was going to pay him to lose.
Yeah. The
So this
tanking
is
aspect.
think about that.
Oh, right.
Right? He was offered, and Flores said, "I had too much integrity
Yeah.
to take that money and do that."
Yeah.
Fans are never going to say, "We want you to lose."
Yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
So it's because of that structure of the thing. There's a incentive that owners have often that is at odds. It's the opposite of fans. So the Ricketts family, you got to charge for parking, you got to pay up for this, you got to pay up for that.
Every single thing,
This
yeah.
isn't making it better for fans.
No.
Yeah.
They will say, well, we raise revenue, and with that revenue, we invest in the team. And I would say, show me, because you refuse to do that recently.
The team's not producing.
Yeah,
right.
and they haven't actually been spending in the level that they should be.
Right.
No, compared to the revenue, especially.
Let me ask you a question. So regarding like these teams that are owned by the fans, is there like a system that these fans are held to, so there's not complete mayhem in terms of like?
It's not like a group of like thousands of people.
No,
Yeah, it is.
No,
It's more than that.
Is it actually?
Yeah, we should look into it. I'm happy to show you.
I'm curious about this because
so in Germany you have to pay a fee, an annual fee. It's usually about $50.
really,
Yeah, about $50.
Wow.
To be in the fan club, and as a member of that fan club, then you are part of this group. Like in a democracy, it can be smaller or larger. You can scale up,
okay,
right?
really?
You can manage to do it.
and the votes
And that vote, the issues are put up on to vote, and they're
Wow.
democratically decided on. So, but not the minute stuff. So there's no mayhem. Like, it's no different than saying, should we have a democracy, because it could lead to mayhem. It's like, I think there's going to be less mayhem in a system that is truly representative of the people who have the most at stake,
right.
as opposed to one like we have in American sports, where it's like, well, I hope the next McCaskey kid isn't such a weirdo. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Did you know that once Virginia's gone, then they're not even the majority owners anymore?
I
Really?
wish I didn't
Yeah.
know that, and I don't care, and you know.
I know.
It's just
But that's going to be
it's
interesting
silly.
to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
So are the Packers the only American team that have fan
I'm not
ownership?
quite sure.
Of the pro sports team, they're the only one I'm aware of. There
Wow.
are smaller like clubs, like I think in some of the
Maybe minority owners, but I don't know about majority.
Yeah, right, and that's what we care about is
Yeah.
like, do you have control or not?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that there are a couple teams in the USL, like
Right.
the pro soccer below MLS.
Right.
Okay.
I think I'm not totally sure. I should
Yeah.
have done more.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I understand. So with baseball coming back, is there anything Cubs related that you want them, any moves that you would like them to make specifically with position?
I mean, they have so much, right? if guys
Yeah.
like Patrick Wisdom and stuff are like the cornerstones,
I don't believe in him at all, by the way. but-
yeah, no, they're not going to win anything with
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
Struck out 40%.
yeah,
of the time.
I want them to go and, spend as much as possible, and it's ridiculous. They need pitchers, right? They had all these like soft tossing pitchers before,
Yeah,
and I
that's
need
like their philosophy.
Didn't they pick up Stroman? I
Yeah.
picked up
convenient
Stroman.
philosophy because they're cheaper players to
Yeah,
get. You know,
the pitcher they drafted out of Kansas State last year in the first round, he is just another soft tossing lefty. So I don't know. That might be just their. I don't know. Maybe that's the way baseball's going, and they're trying to get ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
zig while everyone's zagging.
Meanwhile, the
right.
Dodgers. I mean, look at the Dodgers,
Right.
man. I mean, those guys they're doing it right. I think. I mean,
Yeah, I
they're
mean-
picking up all these.
absolutely.
Yeah, they have.
I mean, if you look at their roster, I mean, good for the Braves because I mean they just had a fantastic performance. But I mean, without what's his name, Acuna, by the way,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, if you look at that Dodger lineup, it looks like an all-star team.
Yeah, it's because they have the best player development staff in the league. A lot of those players are homegrown, and they just draft very well and sign international prospects that they just a lot more hit than a lot more don't. Compared to other teams, and it's just that's how baseball is. That's how baseball's run for the most part. I don't even think it's about spending all that much money anymore, honestly. Well, obviously it helps, but I think you have to supplement homegrown talent with
For sure, but the way that why the Cubs under Theo Epstein and the first several years of the Ricketts, why they improved so much with drafting and developing is because they went from like the most, the worst and the smallest infrastructure. Like they
Yeah.
didn't have that many employees to scout.
They got an analytics.
They didn't have
department
right,
and
so
stuff
that
like
costs
yeah.
money. So it's not only player salary. It's are you investing the money in in the behind the scenes stuff that you can churn out? Yes, and so we see that. But the Dodgers and the Astros and the Braves and all that they have spent a lot of money on that stuff, and
Yeah.
so that does pay off.
Yeah. And the Giants are starting to get into it too. Obviously, just
Yeah.
this past year, but yeah. It's definitely very interesting. You could definitely see the teams that care more about player development really seem to stay good for longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, invest. You invest in it, and you can reap the rewards. And the teams that don't invest in it, of course, they're going to hit here and there, and then they'll flip their player before they hit free agency or whatever. And it's a joke that we have to put up with any of it. And it's like there are fixes to it.
Yeah.
And those for me are the big fixes that need. Like I'm not as worried about some of the like surface level, like pitch clock, whatever. I'm not against it. Let's see how it works out. But I don't think there's 10 things to do that are like, you can't step out of the batter's box and bigger bases. Like, I don't think there's 10 of those that fix the problem of baseball feeling slower, feeling out of step.
Right.
I think the big one is have like this cutthroat competition from every organization where right now we don't. Where right now you really only have a handful of teams that are legitimately trying to win.
And they're expanding the playoffs, which is
and it's just more I
more
agree.
mediocre making the playoffs.
Right. And so that's it. If you have, and I'm not calling for relegation like in Europe, though something like that where, we have the inverse incentives of the worse you do, the better you're rewarded with draft picks and slots on signing. And I know that achieves parity, and there's a very legitimate critique to make of European soccer leagues with you have teams like Bayern Munich that win the league 10 years in a row.
Right.
And you have all the European leagues are dominated by one or a small handful of teams. And that's a very legitimate. But if you want, I can explain how it works in the U.S. why it wouldn't be a problem. But maybe a different episode.
Maybe a
different episode.
Yeah.
Speaking real quick, just back to soccer. So yesterday, PSG were officially knocked out of the Champions League, tournament, and Real Madrid beat them. And I saw somebody release this. A buddy of mine sent me this. He's like, "See, yesterday we saw history beat money. Yesterday, right?" And he was talking about. Because Benzema scored a hat trick, who's been with the team for 10, maybe 20, 10 plus years almost, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah, Benzema's been there.
And it was just because you look at PSG, right?
The only thing, history v money, like as if Real Madrid don't spend money, right? They're like notorious, but but they're no doubt the much more historical team, and I think you have. You had an unbalanced PSG team.
Oh yeah.
So you have like an all-star band, or a collection of players that a lot of people said you have some of the most talented players on
in the
planet
world.
Earth.
Yeah.
Even though Messi's clearly older, he's kind of in the downslope. But
You got Neymar,
but it's just
Mbappe, all these guys.
A well-constructed team where you have role players and all that.
Just got to click better.
Yeah, like I was, very. I was young, but not too young to witness the entirety of the Chicago Bulls run.
Right.
And so we look back on it, and of course there's Jordan and Pippen. But like the other players on those teams, those the way it was constructed was so perfectly
done,
complementary.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
So that Jordan could be Jordan. So that and like. It doesn't always work out, and PSG is one of those where
it just doesn't connect, right?
No,
And the chemistry's a big thing, especially in soccer. And it's like if there's not that chemistry and that clicking, it's like you look at those Barcelona, Real Madrid teams like that those midfield cores that were just so Iniesta, Xavi, all these guys were just clicking. I mean,
gold standard.
That 2010 Spain team was just unbelievable.
I was never into it. They were at that time. I don't know. It was just they were so dominant.
Yeah.
And there's something about it that I was just like. I was always against them, and I was on the wrong.
Sometimes, yeah.
I was on the wrong end of that because it was like they wiped everybody out. It was incredible.
Yeah, those guys were.
But you need soccer is a sport that if we use like American sport analogies to say it's like this, it's like whatever.
Right.
One of the things with soccer is it's like football in the sense that. If you just try a lot harder, that makes up for a lot.
Right.
And you need think about it in a football play. If the left tackle misses a block,
then
everything else can go right.
Falls,
Yeah. And so with PSG, they have 3 attackers who do not play defense.
Yeah, at all.
And so in modern soccer, that's pretty rare.
Right.
Like the best. You look at how awesome Liverpool are.
Yeah.
They're
and
guys, yeah.
Sadio Mane and Mo Salah and whoever's their striker.
They get back
Oh,
quick.
and they work nonstop the whole time. They're not.
I mean, look at Conte, right?
Oh
that
my
guy,
God,
that
he's
guy
the
is
best.
all over the pitch,
He's the
all
best.
game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he puts in. He's like, look at him. It's like that guy really does his best all game. You
Well,
know?
hopefully I'll get to sit next to him on a plane.
I know.
In the next couple of weeks. I gotta just go randomly. Like, all right, where are Chelsea playing? Okay, I'm gonna take a flight from there to there. Just, come on.
See if you could test your luck.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, I know you're on a time limit, so we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We appreciate it. We had a lot of fun.
Thank you guys so much. It was
Uh-huh.
totally random today, running into Omar,
Yes,
who
sir.
was a student of mine
Last year,
last year, but totally online, and we'd never seen each other.
I didn't even realize it until after we talked and
Yeah.
you told me your name. 'Cause it's the masks. It's the masks. you
Well,
know?
but we were in a classroom together. So.
We didn't bump into each other today. This never would have happened.
It's awesome.
so-
But honestly, I am so glad you guys let me be part of this, and I think your podcast is cool.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna.
Just quick disclaimer. We would love to have you back here if you'd like to.
You've
Honestly.
got the stamp of approval of cool from a 40-year-old. This is cool.
All demographics. I'll take it.
It's awesome.
But thank you, Professor. We appreciate
thank you
it.
guys.
Thank you.
So you can access this podcast on Apple Podcasts, the library's website, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And I'll see you next week. Peace.